Hello folks, how are you and welcome. I hope you're well, and most importantly, before we do anything else, I hope you have watched M3GAN 2.0. Yes, this is going to be a spoiler-full discussion of the new sequel, okay? So I wanted to make sure that you're aware of that before we jump in, because to discuss this film, to review it properly, and also to, let's face it, give the ups and downs, we're going to be going through it in a little bit of detail. So, have you seen the film? I assume you have, because you don't want it spoiled before you go and see it, do you? That's not how movies work. Okay, it is for some people, and that's fine, I'm not judging. I am going to assume that everybody watching along has now seen the film, and I would like to invite you all to join me for all of the ups and downs for M3GAN 2.0. M3GAN 2.0 is a sequel to the hit that was M3GAN of 2023. I'm sorry, I genuinely, I've liked the title ever since the first film, and I really like the first film, I really did. It was sort of small, but had a kind of a slick look to it. It was definitely going for a very specific type of genre, type of niche. I thought the cast worked really well together. I thought the idea was good. It wasn't particularly original, but it was done really, really well. Does M3GAN 2.0 live up to the original? Well, the short answer is in parts. So, Gerard Johnstone returns to direct this film, and he picks up some of the writing duties, although Akela Cooper does return for some writing as well. And the film is certainly bigger in scale, or perhaps I should be more specific, it tells us it's bigger in scale. And a lot of the clues for this are dotted throughout. For example, we open up with a covert mission somewhere on the Turkish-Iranian border at the start of the film, and we get references to all sorts of, well, let's guess, existentialism as the film goes on. But the truth is, as you're watching the movie, it still does feel a little bit like that small-scale movie that we saw in 2023, which was one of the charms of the first one, but leads into some of the issues with the second one. I'm going to open with a down. That down is for the character of Colonel Sattler. There's really no point to him. Now, we needed to have this military viewpoint. The film opens with this new android, Amelia, this new AI software, based quite obviously on the M3GAN software from the first film, being used, as I think people could imagine the progression of story. The US military has now acquired this technology, is going to use it for covert missions. Nothing particularly groundbreaking there. Seems like a fairly standard progression of the story. And although it doesn't sound like it, I mean that in a positive way. It's like, oh, yeah, yes, I can imagine that this is where the story would go. Sattler is one of the issues in term, or maybe I should say, he's a good symbol of the issues of this film. And that's this film has absolutely no idea what tone it's going for. Sattler is presented as complete bumbling, just comedic, but also not funny. And, you know, when this is your viewpoint character for the US military, I can imagine that perhaps the idea was, well, you know, they're so silly that we don't want something like this in their hands. However, when this is juxtaposed against images of the highly effective Amelia, well, initially looking like she's succeeding in her mission and then going off on a mission of her own, it serves to certainly make them look even worse. But even if this was deliberate, it feels more awkward than portrayed correctly. So for me, Sattler, who then keeps coming back throughout the film and you know, it sort of attempts to play that role of the interrogator who's in control, but you know they're not slightly in control, but it never really gets above. I mean, I could imagine clown noises being played behind him. And so because of that, any scene that this character is in is really not to be taken seriously. Even his, I'm jumping forward a little bit, but presumed death scene is just written off straight away. He is impaled, as are several other characters, but he is seemingly impervious because you can't kill a clown. And, you know, then, you know, M3GAN says, oh, you're fine. but that's his character arc, and it's all a bit pointless. I think he is a symptom of this is a busy film, and he certainly does not get any kind of character development. Now, let's take something positive for a second, and that is my big up of the film goes to Ivana Sakno's Amelia. She is easily the best thing in the film. She is compelling. The way that she plays the character is so compelling. Now, we get, for those of us of a certain age, will immediately think of films like Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, and of course, Kristanna Loken's Terminator, or the TX, the Terminatrix. Listen, it's not a good, perfect film, I'm not gonna lie to you. But there does seem to be at least more than a passing nod to that film in the character of Amelia. I do, however, think that Amelia is executed very, very well. And any bit of threat or sinister feeling in this film comes from Amelia, not any other character. That is a problem with our villains as the film goes on. But she is captivating. You can see the emotionless gaze that she spends looking around any scene that she's in, and yet you never get anything more than menace. And to do that with a frankly expressionless face, that's a gift. She is, I have to say, she's superb. I cannot sing her praises enough in this film. Every scene that she is in, she makes better. Even when she's doing horrible things like killing a whole bunch of people or, maiming some people and going back and killing those people again. There's a slight one note, but in that character, I do think it lands. I think that it works. We have an issue toward the end of the film that is not Amelia's fault, and frankly, her inclusion in those scenes raises the overall bar for that. So her chameleonic nature, again, with as expressionless as her face is this film's strong suit. My biggest up of the film overall goes to her. My next down with the film is perhaps, if I was to believe that this was done to aid the comedy of the film, is that there are several very, very obvious moments where the film sort of points at something and says, this is going to become important later on. It is not the only film in the world to do that. So please, I'm not shading a Chekhov's gun. They're all just a little bit obvious in this film. So, for example, the exosuit that Gemma and her team are working on is cool, if a bit confusing. Where do your hands go? Are they gloves? Because they don't look like gloves. They look like they've got servos there. Anyway, that's clearly going to come back later on. And there is a good moment. Genuinely, there's a good moment when one of the characters points to that and says, how do you not realize that is, the next logical step for that is exosuit, enhanced weaponry. That is good. That moment, is good. But it's blindingly obvious that that is going to become a very large plot point as the film goes along. I guess I'm trying to keep this in order, but there are things that are, shown as twists that are so obvious. You think the twist is a misdirect, but they aren't. That's a problem, because you shouldn't see your twist coming as quickly as we do. I'm gonna have to talk about Aristotle Athari's Christian. It's so obvious he's a villain from the start. And credit where credit is due, I do like the way that Aristotle plays him as this, possibly grinning tech bro to less grinning tech bro as the film goes on. And to his credit, his, sort of lack of caring about anything really helps to get that across. He's so telegraphed as he's using Gemma from the very first scene, to the fact where it feels like there's going to be like a double bluff, that actually no, he did genuinely just like her. But no, you see him sort of inserting himself into her life, and that's it. Then there it is. Then this guy who's obviously after the M3GAN tech is after the M3GAN tech. So you kind of go like, Was I wrong to waste any time on this character? If indeed a character is what you can call him. It's a bit frustrating because you're sort of watching Gemma in these scenes, as you should. Alison Williams is a strong point of this film. But it sort of makes you frustrated at her not to see his deception, which is why if it had been a double bluff, it would have made an awful lot more sense. But as presented, she's just portrayed as a little bit of a fool, which is a bit of a shame, really. So the obvious twists that you hoped wouldn't be twists, that's a down for me in this film. The supporting cast, now I'm not giving them a down, but nor am I giving them an up, but I'm not going to blame them. There just isn't really much for them to do, and this is a film that feels quite packed. Sattler, as I said, Sattler is a bit of an emblem, or emblematic of this issue, that it feels like there's an awful lot of characters for what is not a lot of story. And so everyone just feels a little bit shoved in. You know, you have some performances that rise up over this. You know, Jermaine Clement, who I'll talk about a bit more now in a second, but he sort of manages to rise out of that, like, oh, you're in this film, whereas Tess and Cole don't. And again, as I say, that's more to do with the fact they're just not given very much to do. And the stuff that they are given to do could be entertaining, but ends up just being a bit more set dressy. This is all seeming very negative, very down. Up, Alison Williams. She has a hard job. Gemma is not a likable character. And we dealt with that in M3GAN, how she is far more concerned with her public image as well as her projects than she is with raising Katie. Here, the opening sequences do tease that she is working hard, and we get a couple of revelations later on in the film that she is working hard to repair that relationship. But what she knows is how to spin a story, how to get out there in front of the camera, and the references that we do get to the fact that she takes the credit for these projects, that her team are not so much her team as they are the help. And Alison Williams has to play this character and still somehow get the audience to root for her. And I think she manages it. I do, because she has a steely strength to her. For me, myself, I first saw her in Jordan Peele's Get Out, where, I mean, if you haven't seen that film, what are you doing? Go and see that film, where she was sublime in that. And she brings some of that here into this role as well. I really did like her in M3GAN. I think perhaps the smaller scale of the first film helped her character as much as it did, you know, her relationship with Katie and her relationship with M3GAN, in fact. But overall, I do think that she does well in this. Alison Williams has also moved over into a producer role in this film as well. And, you know, perhaps that explains why, you know, she gets a fight scene in this film where, you know, she is the aforementioned mech suit that was meant to help people's mobility and in fact becomes a bit of a tribute to the incredible film Upgrade. But Alison Williams is really, really good in that scene. So credit where credit is due. That scene is one of the highlights of the film. Again, you knew it was coming from the moment they introduced this suit, but it was still fun to watch. I think one of my biggest downs is, I mentioned, this film hasn't a clue what it is. Is it a horror film? Is it an action film? Is it a thriller? Is it a drama? Is it a comedy? Well, it would tell you that it's all of these things, and the balance does not work, or at least is not perfect. You have moments that are so clearly designed to get a good laugh out of the audience. And although it was a sparsely populated theater that I was in, there was a few appreciative giggles. In fact, Up, it's PG-13, and the film's one F-bomb, they sold it. That landed, that was very good. So I do want to give absolutely credit where credit is due. That was very, very good. And, you know, there are other moments in the film as well that do work in terms of comedy. Some don't. And there are bits that are like, huh, you laughing yet? No. Yeah, you are. No, I'm not. There was a little bit of that. And But then you don't really have time to ruminate on it, because the next thing you're on some sort of action sequence where you're in a super fast car going through the streets of San Francisco, or you're following an android beating the absolute 7 levels of tar out of some security guards. There is a body count in this film, and you don't really get a breath to decide what you are. And that does lead to some logical gaps as well. Although it certainly teased that M3GAN helps Gemma find the house that they are living in for the price that they are living in, and then you, of course, have, it's more than helps. No one thinks to really talk about that. It's one thing revealing that there is an underground bunker that is effectively a doomsday bunker. Okay, right, fine, but it's a little bit too... If it had been done with a bit more comedy, it would have actually been like a bit of a knee slapper moment. Instead of it sort of leans into that aforementioned thing of, Gemma, there are some logical gaps there, and that is an issue. In a film that is as busy as it is, I will say it probably feels a bit stretched, but it also does take along. I've seen a couple of reviews say that this film feels too long. I actually didn't feel that it felt too long. It just feels a bit too busy. The tone and the genre, I think, a couple of horror moments do return, particularly with Amelia as a character. There's one moment that is both horrific and then sort of played for comedy as well. I think that lands, and that is, shall we say, the fate of Aristotle's Christian. But the inconsistent tone hurts this film. I've already mentioned the twists not being so much twists as, oh, it was what I guessed, okay. But some of the side characters, I'm gonna give it down to the use of coal, because are we to believe that he went to a party and was given an access all areas card? There's some sort of, oh, you joined his team. No, I just wanted to show this thing. We're really pushing logic here at this point. In a film where we have a sentient AI who can probably get through doors. Things like that feel stuck in. They feel like they were stuck in to advance the plot further faster, but actually they're just a bit more of a head scratcher. And then he gets some more of the slapstick moments. There was a kind of a moment where I grinned when he sniffed the wrong rag, shall we say. Yeah, that was a bit funny, but then other times, why is he there? If only to sort of let somebody else seem smarter in a scene. So kind of the use of the cast there is just a bit odd. M3GAN went viral. M3GAN had some moments that stood out for all the right reasons. Dancing away in the corridor with the guillotine knife. Listen, we all enjoyed the marketing campaign. And speaking of which, the marketing campaign for this film has been fun. It's not in the film, but I'm going to give the marketing campaign an up. Watching M3GAN sit in interviews was quite fun. But repeating the jokes gets old fast. You're kind of like, you're sitting here going like, I have a checklist. Does M3GAN dance? Yes. Does M3GAN sing a ballad? Yes. Okie doke. And it feels more like that than it feels this is the right moment for this to happen. The dance less so. The dance is less egregiously included than, say, the ballad is. And I will, again, credit to you, there's a good joke to finish off the ballad. So, this movie definitely has things going for it. But repeating the joke does feel a little redundant after a while. And the actual plot repeats a couple of things that in a film, like I said, ticks along as quickly as it does. It's still really fresh in your mind by the time it repeats it. Look, M3GAN's back. We always knew M3GAN was going to be back. We know that M3GAN was going to be back in her body, and knowing that, giving it up to how we get her back. Genuinely. It's silly in the real world, if you like. She's never getting a body back. Are you kidding me? After she tried to kill everyone, you'd never trust her. And that is a problem that this film doesn't really get beyond, which is, how do you ever trust a character like M3GAN again, who is a homicidal AI, who you can't trust because they're going to tell you everything that they want you to hear, despite the fact she's programmed to protect Katie. Yes, okay. But this is where the film just kind of says, screw it, we're going to have some fun. And it is fun. watching her get her body back. It's slightly upgraded. There's a good knowing joke about I want to be taller because Amy Donald, who plays the physical M3GAN, had a growth spurt, as you would imagine. Too many of M3GAN's lines are clearly designed to be trailer bait, and they want them to be trending sounds, and yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's obvious. Having said that, Jenna Davis delivers them brilliantly. I mean, M3GAN is as fun, probably this time around, as she was in the first film. You know, I've spoken about the tone and the genre issues, and so yeah, those issues, I guess, do affect M3GAN overall because of such a large role she plays in them. But you know, the fun of it is still there. There is a case of best bits in the trailer. I will say that. You know, you threatened to, you know, I was upset. Yeah, that's funny. You know, things like that, and it's delivered very well. Just wish I hadn't been in the trailer. You know, things like that. But overall, M3GAN is still fun to watch in this film. And it would, I mean, the film's called M3GAN 2.0, it'd be a bit hard to do it without her, but when I say the film would suffer without her, I do mean that kind of tells you about the rest of the cast and the issues there. And, you know, and up to Aristotle for how he plays Christian, but down to how much they're just, I've mentioned obviously the twist being so obvious, but even within that, there was a chance to do something interesting, which was, you know, sort of the greater good, because, you know, ostensibly he's putting together a team to, you know, fight for the ethical use of AI, or more effectively kind of take down AI. And that's where we get our reveal, spoilers, that he controls and programs Amelia. And, you know, that's all very interesting and everything. But then when this is revealed and Gemma refuses to work with him, he suddenly switches to, okay, Graham, well, I'm going to just shove a chip into your brain, and yeah, we're just going to kill your friends. Oh, okay then. Right, so anything that could even be mistaken as greater good, sort of, before this is just, oh, you're just a bit of a psycho then. Right, so, next. I've skipped over a little bit, so I just want to pause. I do want to give an up to Jermaine Clement. His Alton is just bonkers and is potentially in a film all of his own. You know, that scene in his penthouse between himself and Ivana's Amelia, it is played for comedy, and he delivers it mostly quite well. And I think in a film that would have better managed its tones, I think there'd be a bit more of a standout, because frankly his death is quite horrific. Now it's largely suggested more so than shown, but for a character who's probably the best side character in the film, he does get a scene. It is good. I do like the couple of reveals that he has. Wasted. Wait, no, actually that's unfair. That's unfair to say he's wasted. Underused. How does that sound? He is underused in this film. But it is an up for him in every moment that he's in this film. I do want to give an up as well. When this film wants to be horror, it does well. That scene of Amelia waking up after the reboot, that's quite scary. I won't lie to you. You know, again, Ivana just really sells this role. But yeah, I kind of got that feeling of, oh, Katie, you done messed up here. That was not a good idea. And then as she arrives just behind Christian at the end, yeah, like she does good. So when it wants to be horror, this film I think does a little bit better. So yeah, credit where credit is due. I have upped the fight scene with Allison already, but I do want to give an up to trying to persuade Katie to use her Aikido with Steven Seagal film nails. It's, yeah, and then like, oh, Katie, seriously? That works for me. That was an up. One of the downs that I had for this film is sort of the muddled, hang on, what's going on? So Amelia, before the twist, is trying to find this motherboard from an AI that was created in the 80s by this company Xenox. It's been locked away and it's had decades of machine learning, so it's effectively got god powers now, and it's kept in a Faraday cage, and it's all very, very blah, blah, blah. Okay, right, all right, fine, I can buy that. Then it's revealed that Christian knew about this because he got a job with that company, and he then co-opted Amelia to make it look like she was looking for this. He then loses control of her, so she ends up looking for this. So basically, he put her in the one spot where she should never be, and we're supposed to believe that he's not an idiot. And I'm sitting there in the cinema, and I'm going, hang on, taking my notes. Okay, so he's an idiot, right? Okay. And it's a bit hard to get past that. So when you have the entire climax of the film, which is generally fun, you know, you've got some stakes there, and it's a bit like, yeah, but none of that needed to happen. And if Christian believes what he believes about the use of AI and everything, why on earth would he not have used an EMP on this in the first place? You know what I mean? Because here he gets his hand. He is the one who has access, and it's, you know, she gets access to his hand by doing that, and that's how she gets access to it. So I'm trying to figure all this out. I'm trying to watch this. My ears are kind of bleeding a little bit, and I'm like, but why did you put her there? What was the point? And yeah, so down. The logic doesn't logic for me in this film. And it sort of feeds into as well the mixed message about the use of AI that already feels a little bit dated in this film. I mean, look, films take a while to make. Yeah, I appreciate that. But, you know, as we are now in a time where, you know, AI is so connected with everything that we do, AI is a tool, we are struggling for the ethical use of AI. This film's message of learn to peacefully coexist, I get it, it's just handled a little bit weirdly, especially when every piece of AI in this film is trying to destroy humanity. Remember, M3GAN only saves the day because she doesn't want to kill Katie. You know, like, there's this, it's sort of hinted at that when her consciousness effectively joins with Gemma's via this neural link, by the way, that's a plot point as well. Like I said, this film's busy. It's that maybe she gets a little bit of humanity from this. It's more insinuating it than being out and out told it. And it's all just a little bit muddy. The climax is a mess. And then, you know, kind of Amelia does join with the mother box, and she's got the white, and basically we're told, oh, she's gonna be a god, she's gonna be a god, she's gonna be a god. She never thought to copy herself, no? Cool. She's omnipotent, but she doesn't know how to upload. Cool. Alrighty. And, you know, if you're a god type, if you had decades of machine learning, would you not have figured out how to beat an EMP? I did, you know, but I shouldn't be asking these questions watching the climax. You know what I mean? This is maybe, you know, for something afterwards, you sit around with your mates and go like, oh, well, yeah, what about this? What about this? But I'm in the cinema going, well, why didn't you just do that? Well, maybe she's going to. Maybe she's going to. Oh, she didn't. All right, okay. Not godlike then. So instead, you get this EMP thanks to a device that Gemma had hidden in M3GAN's new body, and they use it, and that's it. And all of these world-ending stakes never felt world-ending. And then you've just got two cooling bits of metal on the floor. Grand. M3GAN effectively dies, but of course, no, she doesn't, because she's copied herself, and there is a funny scene where she's the little Mr. Clippy, but then, you know, she is not, but she's software. So the problem, I think, with the end of this film is there are absolutely no stakes. There was a moment, and thanks to the way, again, I can't sing her praises enough, thanks to the way Ivana plays Amelia, there was a moment there where I thought like, oh, maybe she could be a problem, you know, when she's Terminator 3ing her way through the building. But then that's so easily brought to an end that it doesn't really feel like there's any stakes there. And then M3GAN immediately revealing herself to be, you know, alive and saved as software, again, just cuts any kind of stakes that there were in this film. So there is a down, because I honestly left the film thinking, what was the point? And I'm a bit sad to say that, because I do like to look for the good in things. I really, really do. And that's why there is good things in this film. But so much of it did not feel like it needed to be there. The film did not in any way impress upon me that it needed to exist. And the end just winked at me and went, see you next time, meaning this so obviously sequel bait for M3GAN 3.0. I am not against a M3GAN 3.0, I just hope that when it comes to that film, they have a better idea of what it is they want to do. To summarize it all up, M3GAN 2.0 takes some of the best bits of the first film, along with some of the worst tropes of about 7 different genres, and matches it all together. You have so much going on all the time, it's very hard to single in on any one thing and go, that's great, that's great, that's not, that's not. You do have some performances that completely rise up above everyone else's. Ivana Saknos, you have Alison Williams, and you have Jenna Davis and Amy Donald. And then you sort of have everything else. It tries to do a message of how to coexist with AI and the threat of AI taking over everything. It's sort of like they're trying to go for 2025's answer to Terminator 2 and Terminator 3, and instead I think delivers something a little lukewarm and you know, for as iconic and quote-worthy as certainly Terminator 2 was, it didn't feel like it was trying as hard as this felt like it was trying to generate content. Not the worst film I've ever seen by a long shot, not a film that would enter my rewatched list anytime soon. M3GAN 2.0 is out in theaters at the moment. Please do go see it. Again, I'm assuming if you've watched this that you have seen it. Do let us know in the comments below what you thought. Do you agree? Do you thoroughly disagree? I have seen 5-star reviews of this film. Please don't get me wrong. There are people that love it, and that's fine. It's absolutely fine. Remember, at the end of the day, opinion counts for an awful lot of things. So do let us know what you think. Folks, thank you very much for watching along. You are awesome. You are wonderful. We are at What Culture Horror. You will catch us on all the various socials at What Culture Horror. I am at Sean Ferrick. Please make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. It makes a big difference when you subscribe, and it allows us to bring you more reviews like this. So thank you so much. Until I see you again, look after yourself. You are awesome. Stay shiny.